Today in Final Cut Pro, I'm going to show you a ridiculously easy way to animate a logo using a vastly underrated feature, and that being Photoshop files directly in Final Cut. Before we go to Final Cut Pro, we're going to take a stop here in Affinity Photo. This also works great with Pixelmator or Photoshop if you're one of those crazy people that pays the subscription fee.
Why would you do that?
So to export this, we'll just go on up to File, select Export, and then we're going to make sure that we have a PSD here. And then under the preset options, we can change this over to PSD Final Cut Pro 10. Now this is actually an option available both in Pixelmator and Affinity Photo. Editor Dylan here. It should be noted that this is not required for this effect to work in Final Cut Pro. Exporting with the Final Cut Pro 10 preset just makes it a more optimized Photoshop file for Final Cut Pro, but you can totally use regular Photoshop files directly in Final Cut. Once we've done that, we'll go ahead and push export, and I'll just type in logo. Now we can open up Final Cut Pro. I'm going to push Command I to import and locate the file that I want to bring in. Once that's imported, you might notice this little icon in the top left. That indicates that this is a Photoshop file. What I'm going to do is go ahead and double click on this file, and you'll notice that all of the layers that we exported are separated. Push Command A to select everything and then V to disable it. Then we can go ahead and back out. Now with this logo selected, I'm going to go ahead and push E to drop it directly on the main timeline, and then I'm going to push Q several more times to get all of the layers that I might need. Now that I have all of these separated layers, we can jump inside of each of these Photoshop files and enable one at a time the layers that we want. So I'll enable the backdrop, then I'll enable this circle, then I'll enable this logo, and then finally I'll enable my face. Now that I have all of these basic elements down on the timeline, it's time to animate them, and I do not want to even touch the keyframes in Final Cut Pro. So today we're going to use a free plugin from Tapio Haja. I don't know how to say his name, I'm sorry if I'm butchering that, but there's a link down below to go ahead and download this, and we are just going to look up Tap 5A down in our effects. And what we can do is click and drag each of these effects onto the given layers. So for the backdrop, I'm going to go ahead and just apply the in and out animator, and I want this to fly from the bottom. Then we're going to apply the in and out bouncer to this circle, and it will be this overshoot mode. I'm going to change this over to zoom from in. With the slate, I want that to come from the right side, so I'll do the in and out animator and do float from right. And then finally on my face, I'm going to apply the in and out bouncer again, and this time we're going to have it fly from left. So if we push play, we should have a nicely animated logo. So hopefully you can see how powerful it is to use Photoshop files in Final Cut Pro. And it should be noted that if your layers have blend modes applied to them, those same blend modes will actually show up in Final Cut Pro. If you enjoyed this video, you might like this video where I show my entire editing process for one of my tutorials here on YouTube. With that being said, thank you so much for watching, and I cannot wait to see you in the next one.